Demetrius Andrade's team says he was rejected for a Billy Joe Saunders fight and he was willing to go up to 168 and the fight was declined. Wow. What up, Fight World? It's your boy Ego and I'm back with some more boxing. Make sure you smash the like button. Also subscribe to the channel for the latest and greatest in boxing. If you want to become part of the gang, notification gang, please hit the bell icon. Shout out to the super chats, channel donations, the Venmo donations, and the Patreon family. We working. Now this is breaking news. I haven't really seen anyone talk about it. Demetrius Andrade's team suggests that they were open, willing, and an offer was sent to fight Billy Joe Saunders at 168, where he is a champion, on the Logan Paul KSI Part 2 rematch card that's going to be televised by DAZN. And I guess Saunders' representation, Eddie Hearn or whoever, according to Demetrius Andrade's side, they rejected that fight. So they're saying Billy Joe Saunders might be on this undercard, right? But not against Demetrius Andrade. Now, this is what I'm talking about. DAZN has some real life issues that they must handle and they must face for boxing fans. I really feel like since DAZN came in the game, they stated their purpose was to eliminate, pay-per-views and pay-per-views dead. And they came aggressive with this gimmicky push. And so far, you haven't eliminated pay-per-views. Jorge Masvidal, Nate Diaz, UFC pay-per-view on the same night as Canelo Kovalev. This weekend, Fox is doing a pay-per-view. I'm in LA for that fight. Errol Spence versus Sean Porter. And then it has a great co-feature, David Benavidez versus Anthony Durrell. So they haven't eliminated pay-per-views. They haven't even put a dent in it to the point where we're getting less pay-per-views. If anything, we're getting more pay-per-views. So maybe that's a statement from everybody else to show DAZN, like, you don't call the shots. Just because you said it doesn't make it gospel. But beyond that, I told you, content is king. And as far as a fight with KSI and Logan Paul, Eddie Hearns and the people involved with the fight keep suggesting that this is somehow a good thing for boxing. But I've maintained the same thing. I don't really know that it's such a great thing. Like, I think Mayweather versus McGregor is a better fight for boxing because we had two established professional fighters. It's just a crossover fight for one of the guys who trains boxing. As an MMA fighter at the upper echelon, like Conor McGregor, he actually trains boxing. Heavy bags, he hits the heavy bag, shit like that. Logan Paul and KSI, they started doing that like recently. Conor McGregor's been fighting his whole life in some form or fashion, as had Floyd Mayweather. But anyway, the narrative is that this is bringing so much positive looks to the world of boxing with this YouTuber fight. And I don't see it the same way, just because I think the two main event combatants have a unique fan base. Their fan base is not necessarily even the sports fan or combat fight fans. It could be, I like pranks and I like the stuff they put on their YouTube channel, which up until the last year or so really wasn't dedicated to sports or boxing particularly. And then now this information's coming out from Andrade's team that they were down to move up from 160, where Demetrius Andrade is a champion, to fight Billy Joe Saunders at his new weight. Because Billy Joe Saunders said he can flex between 60 and 68, but he just won a title, like a vacant title, after Gilberto Zurdo Ramirez moved up to 175. His old WBO belt became available, and he fought some He Thick or She Fat, whatever the dude's name was, and he beat him to become a 168-pound champion. So that was a bogus fight to begin with. Nobody's ever heard of that opponent, and somehow, conveniently, they're able to fight for a title. Now that Billy Joe Saunders has a title, why would they not want to? If KSI Logan Paul 2 was such a good fight and it's so beneficial to the world of boxing, why not put a fight that was already scheduled on the books, Billy Joe Saunders versus Demetrius Andrade, even at a new weight, which creates more complexity, Andrade moving up and stuff like that. And it doesn't get done. DAZN can't get that done. They're going to put Billy Joe Saunders in there with most likely somebody lesser than a Demetrius Andrade. Because who else is he going to fight? Golovkin has a fight with Derevyanchenko, so it's not one of them. Canelo's fighting Kovalev. They rejected Demetrius Andrade. Charlo already has negotiations for his December return. So who is Billy Joe Saunders really going to fight? We know it's going to be someone lesser than Demetrius Andrade. And to me, this is the problem with DAZN. Like, they have to figure out a way to land the impactful fights that their core boxing fan audience would want to see. I want to see Billy Joe Saunders versus Demetrius Andrade since it was a thing and announced. They even had a press conference for it. They had a whole press conference, and because Billy Joe Saunders tested positive and failed a drug test, the fight got canned because he couldn't get sanctioned. The Boston Commission would not approve him for a license because he failed for a PED, performance enhancing drug, on the banned list that is banned in America, but I guess it's only banned at certain times in the UK. So, the UK looking real shaky with the drug testing procedures. You got Dillian White, no B samples ever been reported. I don't know if they're opening it. Allegedly lawyers are working on it, but we haven't heard no updates with that. Tyson Fury failed a drug test in the past, and now they're claiming he's still lineal champion. Billy Joe Saunders failed a drug test. We can't get a rescheduled Demetrius Andrade bout, And I feel bad for Demetrius Andrade, but this is what I'm telling you, new media. Demetrius Andrade is up here with DAZN, one of the top fighters, skillfully. He's an Olympian that represented America, but there's no precedence and there's no level of real interest that I'm seeing from up top from DAZN to make sure Demetrius Andrade is involved in the biggest fights. Demetrius Andrade's name was thrown around as a decoy for Canelo. They said, Canelo's in serious negotiations and seriously considering Andrade. The shit went nowhere, just like I predicted. And now Canelo's leaving the division where they're both champions, Andrade and Canelo, and he's going to 175, which is uncharted territory, to fight a guy who almost got stopped in his last fight. And most people believe he only has a few fights, if that, left, and he's on his last leg. This is the part with boxing that is a problem. They're trying to sell Canelo versus Kovalev as this great fight, as if Kovalev is the crusher that beat Jean Pascal and B-Hop years ago. He looks war-torn. There's some danger just because punching power is the last thing to leave you, but there's much better, fresher fights that if Canelo really wanted to challenge himself, he could have taken, And between Canelo, Billy Joe Saunders, and also Gennady Golovkin especially, where's the level of risk? Canelo, I give it to him. He has a good resume. He's taking risks. Billy Joe Saunders, his is like hit or miss. He'll take a risk and then he'll start fighting people no one's heard of, Artur Akov and all this stuff, right? Now, Demetrius Andrade has had to fight Artur Akov and Alantez Foxes and shit like that, but that's because no one's down to fight him. People are down to fight Billy Joe Saunders. Danny Jacobs wanted to fight, Boo Boo was scheduled to fight him, and then they haven't been able to get rescheduled. And I understood it's harder to make when he was with Frank Warren, but now Billy Joe Saunders is with Eddie Hearn, Andrade is with Eddie Hearn. How come they can't make this fight? This is what's wrong with boxing. Again, they got this Logan Paul KSI 2 shit, and they're trying to market it as this is a big experience for boxing fans and to lead people into boxing some kind of way who may not have been interested in. But you have to settle the score, and you have to treat the core boxing fans, to a treat too. And beyond that, let's say you are a casual. That means you don't know who the fuck you're watching. If you're just like a YouTube fan and you're not really versed in boxing, and then you see a good fight, then that makes it interesting. But if you see Billy Joe Saunders in a one-sided fight, and when they're doing the commentary, they have nothing to say about this guy, that he's opposite Sheet Fat or whoever, is going to be. You know, the fans aren't dumb. But when you talk about Billy Joe Saunders fighting Demetrius Andrade, you could be like, okay, Andrade, U.S. Olympian in 2012 or whatever, blah, blah, blah. You can build him up. You can talk about his achievement. He was a champion at 154, right? He beat an Olympian in Vanes Martirosyan in Martirosyan's prime, you know, after getting knocked down. You can preview the fight. But if you put Billy Joe Saunders in there with just a Joe Schmo, it just doesn't really do anything for boxing. So just like I suspected, this Logan Paul KSI it's a money grab, and they're trying to sell it as like, oh, we're doing what's right for boxing. But again, in my honest opinion, if you're doing what's right for boxing, you would try to get good boxing fights on there as well, especially if it's doable. Andrade's willing to move up to 168 and can't get no smoke with Billy Joe Saunders, but they had a scheduled fight at 160. This is more Billy Joe Saunders' weight class. He's the champion there. You know, so it's more his weight class than it is Andrade. Andrade just moved up to 160. You know, Billy Joe Saunders fought after he failed the drug test. He fought at cruiserweight basically, and then now he's fighting at 168. So Billy Joe Saunders has more recent experience at the higher weights, but for whatever reason, DAZN is not putting any precedence on what happens next for Demetrius Andrade's career, and to me, it's sad. It's sad because his counterparts are all getting big looks, you know, main events, stuff like that. Look at Errol Spence. Look how he's being treated with PBC, you know, getting a big fight. Sean Porter got a job as a commentator, and he has a big fight, pay-per-view, get back in money. Meanwhile, Andrade has to keep fighting people we know he can beat because the top guys we want to see him fight that he keeps calling out, none of them are being pressured by DAZN to make the fight. Once again, DAZN is going the way of HBO 2.0. They're going off after the low-hanging fruit like Canelo Triple G, not informed and thinking that's what everyone wants to see, you know, not really knowing the market. Oh, everyone wants to see Canelo Triple G 3 because the first two fights were successful, but a lot's changed. Triple G's star power went down. You don't have Abel Sanchez, you know, cheerleading and promoting him. Now you have a quiet promoter. Triple G don't do no promotion. He just fought Steve Rolls. I mean, shit's changed. Canelo became franchise champion, and instead of making eventful, fresh matches, we'll see. I'll put it that way. I'm not going to speculate. That's the end of this video. We'll see if Billy Joe Saunders fights on the card, we'll see who they have him fighting. Let me know what you guys think. Andrade's team says they offered to move up to 68 to fight Billy Joe Saunders, and it was declined for November 9th on the KSI Logan Paul card. Drop your thoughts in the comment section. If you're new, consider subscribing. Make sure you smash the like button. As always, hate, comment, and subscribe. Till next video, is Ego signing off.
So if you enjoyed this video and want more content like this on the channel, you can show your appreciation by going to the PayPal donate button or the YouTube support button, and you can donate any amount that you feel is equivalent to the value of this video. Much more to come. Thank you guys for your support. Boxingego, the future of boxing.